You hold in your hand a modest bronze disc minted in 1980 in South Africa. It weighs just 3 grams, measures 19 millimeters across, just over 1.5 millimeters thick. It's easy to dismiss as everyday change, but there's so much more hidden in its tiny form. On one side you see the coat of arms of South Africa at that moment, the shield divided into quarters, each quarter representing a province. You'll notice symbols, an ox wagon, a woman with an anchor, wildebeests, the orange tree. Around that, the name SUID Afrika * South Africa * 1980 *, and below, in tiny letters, the initials TS for Tommy Sassin, the designer. On the reverse, 2 Cape sparrows perch on a branch, the inscription 1C above them, and again the artist's initials subtly placed beneath. That simple pairing of sparrows, the elegance of their pose, the crispness of detail when the coin is well preserved, that is where its beauty lives. It was cast in bronze, the alloy a mixture of copper, tin, and a hint of zinc. It had an edge that was reeded. It circulated in daily commerce, passing through countless pockets, coin purses, cash registers. It was minted in the Centurion Mint, nearly 63.432 million of them made for circulation that year. That's a big number, yet even among so many there are degrees of rarity. When you get into the condition, the proof versions, and whether any minting errors occurred, plain examples, heavily circulated, show wear, the details in the wings of the sparrows fade, the feathers flatten. The edges get soft. The inscriptions around the arms lose sharpness. Yet some survive in remarkably good condition, no major scratches, clear details, full relief, good luster. These are the coins that attract serious attention from collectors. Uncirculated coins, those never handled or only lightly handled, retain latent brilliance. Proof issues, struck with specially prepared dies and polished blanks, can have mirror-like fields and raised, frosted details. These are far less common. The cent was part of a series that ran from 1965 through 1989 in South Africa, so the 1980 piece sits in the middle of that run. In 1989 the small denominations were withdrawn from circulation. The 1-cent coin no longer functioned as everyday tender after that, so by that time many of the surviving coins had been through decades of use. Weather, oxidation, scratches, cleaning attempts all degrade value. Collectors prize coins with minimal toning, intact surfaces, sharp edges, clean lettering. Even small nicks or slight wear can drastically reduce market value. When you look at how value is assigned, key factors are grade, condition, market demand, rarity of the specific specimen, especially proof or uncirculated, and the provenance. If you can find a 1980 coin that has never been circulated, kept in top condition, maybe even certified by a grading service, that coin becomes special. But for most circulated 1980 cents, value remains modest. Many pieces buy and sell for well under $1. According to numismatic catalogs, a typical circulated example of the 1981 cent coin might be worth around 50 to 60 cents in US dollars if condition is average. More carefully handled, better grade pieces can fetch higher prices among hobbyists. Proof or mint set examples are rarer and thus command premiums. But even those are rarely astronomical. Still, the story of coins like this is not just about price tags. It's about history. It's about the era it was born in, the hands through which it passed, the changes South Africa itself passed through, political, economic, social. This small coin witnessed decades of change, inflation, shifts in currency itself, shifts in what money means to people. The imagery tells something too, the sparrows, the coat of arms, the bilingual country name, the melding of English and Afrikaans on the coin. These are design choices that reflect culture, language, identity. For a viewer or collector, touching one of these pieces is touching part of that history. Imagine the joy someone feels holding one in that pristine proof form where light plays off every raised line, where there's no corrosion, no friction wear. Knowing that out of tens of millions, very few survived in that kind of state. That someone, perhaps a collector, maybe a museum, might pay far beyond face value. And that longing to own something rare, something steeped in decades, makes collectors dream.
Before we dive in, take a moment to hit that subscribe button. If you enjoy stories about hidden treasure, rare coins, and history hiding in plain sight, this is the place for you. Now imagine this. You're sorting through an old drawer. Maybe it's your late father's toolbox, a box from your military days, or just a forgotten coin jar tucked away for years. You pull out a tiny bronze coin. Faded, simple, barely bigger than your thumbnail. You turn it over. It says 1 cent. The date? 1975. Country? South Africa. You smile. Just a penny, right? Worthless. Or is it? What if I told you that little coin might be worth a small fortune? No joke. In fact, there's a version of that 1975 South African 1 cent coin that some claim is worth up to $3 million. Not 300, not 3,000, but 3 million. You might be sitting on something bigger than you ever imagined. Let's take a step back. The 1970s were a turbulent time in South Africa. Political change was brewing. The world was shifting. And while these coins were minted in large numbers, only a few were ever preserved in perfect condition. Even fewer might contain tiny minting errors or rare qualities invisible to the untrained eye. But collectors, real collectors, they notice. And they're willing to pay, sometimes beyond belief. This coin is made of bronze, roughly 3 grams in weight, modest in appearance. On one side, 2 Cape sparrows perched together, delicate and proud. On the other side, the country's name and the year of minting, 1975. It's not flashy. It's not shiny gold or sparkling silver. But what makes it special isn't just the metal. It's the mystery. See, over 60 million of these coins were minted. Most were used, scratched, dented, spent, lost. Time wore them down. People ignored them. And yet, in the middle of all those coins, there are whispers of a few, just a few, that were never meant to be seen. Maybe a test run, maybe a prototype, maybe struck in error or using a different alloy or under unusual pressure. And when one of those surfaces, the world pays attention. The value of a coin comes from more than its age. It comes from condition, rarity, story, and collector demand. If your coin has never been in circulation, if it still shines like the day it was made, that's a good sign. If it has sharp, clean edges, and the images and letters are crisp, even better. But if your coin has something else, a misprint, a double stamp, a metal inconsistency, now you're in a different league. Coin grading professionals look at every tiny detail under magnification. One extra mark, one missing detail, one odd coloration could mean everything. And collectors, especially older ones with experience and deep pockets, will fight for those once-in-a-lifetime pieces. For them, it's not just about owning the coin. It's about owning a piece of history that no one else has. And sometimes, they're willing to pay millions for that privilege. This is where it gets truly interesting. Stories have surfaced about one version of the 1975 South African 1 center coin, a flawless, uncirculated specimen with a rare anomaly that's been valued at up to $3 million. That's right, 3 million. It's hard to believe, but in the world of numismatics, that kind of valuation isn't unheard of, especially when the right coin meets the right collector at the right time. Now, before you run to your drawer and dig through every old coin you own, take a breath. The chances are slim, yes, but not impossible. You never know what might be hiding in plain sight. Maybe you picked it up as change decades ago and tossed it in a jar. Maybe your grandfather handed it to you without a second thought. Maybe it's been sitting in your garage, attic, or desk for 40 years, waiting for someone to realize what it really is. And let's be honest, for many of us in this stage of life, it's not just about the money. It's about the thrill of discovery, the connection to the past, the chance to tell your grandchildren you found something incredible, something no one else had. That's the real treasure. That if you think you've got one of these coins, there are a few simple things you should do. First, don't clean it. That can destroy value instantly. Second, handle it carefully, preferably with gloves. Third, examine it closely with a magnifying glass or a loupe. Look for any unusual features, strange marks, misaligned text, unexpected weight or color. And finally, if you believe it's special, take it to a professional coin grader. They can tell you what you have and what it might be worth. There are people who spend their lives hunting for coins like this. They visit estate sales, auctions, yard sales, pawn shops, hoping to find that one overlooked gem. But sometimes, the greatest finds don't come from out there. Sometimes, they come from your own home, your own history. You just have to take a closer look. So next time you're cleaning out an old drawer or flipping through your change, remember this story. Don't dismiss that dusty little coin too quickly. What looks like a penny might just be a piece of a forgotten fortune. All it takes is one coin, one moment, one discovery. And now, as promised, here's the number that's shocked collectors, dealers, and treasure hunters alike. One rare version of the 1975 South African one-center coin has been rumored and even valued at up to $3 million. That's not fantasy. That's the power of rarity, condition, and timing. So check your drawers. Look through your old boxes. You never know. That tiny coin from decades ago could be your golden ticket.
You might think a 1-cent coin would hold little importance today. But imagine an object so small, yet dense with history, symbolism, and mystery. The year is 1970, South Africa is in a complex era, and this tiny bronze disc quietly slips through hands, pockets, and wallets, bearing silent witness to decades of change. That coin is the 1970 South African 1-center, and despite its humble face value, it carries a story reaching far beyond everyday exchange. At first glance, you might notice the coin's modest size, just 19.05 millimeters in diameter and 1.57 millimeters thick, with a weight of 3 grams. It is composed of bronze, primarily copper, with small additions of tin and zinc. Munstuck Plus 2 Online Coin Club Plus 2. What makes the 1970 edition particularly interesting is that it occurred in a period of transition for South African coinage. Prior to 1970, some versions of the 1-cent coin carried differing legends. Beginning in 1970, the design adopted a bilingual inscription, featuring both SUID Africa and South Africa around the national coat of arms. Online Coin Club Plus 2 AmericanHistory.si.edu Plus 2 Beneath the coat of arms appear the initials TS, the signature of the designer Tommy Sassin. Online Coin Club Plus 1 The reverse side presents 2 Cape sparrows perched delicately on a branch, small, common birds given majesty through intricate engraving. Online Coin Club Plus 2 Munstuck Plus 2 Above or near the birds is the denomination, 1C, and again the designer initials TS. Online Coin Club Plus 2 AmericanHistory.si.edu Plus 2 The obverse coat of arms is bold and symbolic. It features a shield divided into quarters, representative emblems of the provinces of the Old Union, including an ox wagon, an orange tree, a woman with an anchor, and animals. The shield is supported by the springbok and gemsbok, creatures tied deeply to the South African landscape and identity. Above, a lion holds bound sticks in the crest, and below, the Latin motto, Ex Unit 8 Veres, meaning, from unity, strength. Online Coin Club Plus 2 Munstuck Plus 2 ringing around are the country names in both languages, and the date 1970 sits below the shield. Online Coin Club Plus 1 When this coin entered production, the mintage was substantial. Around 37,072,000 pieces were struck in 1970. Online Coin Club Plus 2 Munstuck Plus 2 That large mintage means that the coin wasn't rare in its time, it served as a modest everyday piece of currency. But over the years, as South Africa moved through political change, economic upheaval, and shifts in its monetary system, small coins like this one were phased out, and many were melted, lost, or discarded. The 1-cent coin was eventually demonetized for regular circulation by 1989. AmericanHistory.si.edu Plus 3 Online Coin Club Plus 3 Munstuck Plus 3 Collectors today often prize coins that survived in excellent condition, those with sharp detail, limited wear, strong luster, and few marks. In typical circulation or lightly worn crates, estimates of value place a 1971 cent coin in the range of 50 cents to $1.06, depending on condition. But a coin's true value can rise dramatically if it comes with a rare anomaly, exceptional state of preservation, or a provenance that ties it to a notable collection. And that is where intrigue builds. Imagine a single coin, in near mint condition, perhaps with an error, that defies its humble face value to command extraordinary attention. Understanding how a simple cent piece could transform into a prized collector's object requires seeing beyond its monetary label. It becomes a tangible link to a specific time in South Africa's history. One can ponder how many hands it passed through, in which towns, markets, and journeys. How many used it to buy small goods, perhaps a loaf of bread or a simple treat. Each scratch, each mark, each slight toning or patina whispers stories of places and people long gone. Collectors often examine the surfaces under magnification, checking for die cracks, doubling, shape irregularities, and die offsets. Some coins may reveal slight misstrikes or planchet flaws, qualities that can make them stand out above the millions of regular pieces struck. In auctions, it is these exceptional specimens, those unusually fresh, with well-defined relief and minimal wear, that command premiums far above typical values. When you show the coin to a viewer, draw attention to the fine feathers etched into the sparrows, the subtle texture of the coat of arms, and the way the metal may reflect light or bear patina. Show close-ups, show macro shots, compare edge detail, show the date, show the initials TS, the signature of the 1970 artist. Ask the viewer to imagine holding it, turning it under a lamp, seeing history in metal. Tell the backstory. When South Africa moved to decimal currency in the 1960s, new coin types were introduced. The 1 cent replaced earlier denominations. Over the years the design evolved. In early issues only one language was incised, but in 1970 the bilingual legend was introduced. Online Coin Club +1. The coins continued in this form until smaller or altered materials were used, and eventually the 1 cent coin ceased to be practical in daily use. Online Coin Club +3. Online Coin Club +3. Wikipedia +3. In many nations, low-denomination coins gradually fade from circulation, and what was once a trivial piece becomes a collector's curiosity. If you take the coin to auction, in the right venue, with the right presentation, collectors may compete vigorously. A coin in pristine condition, perhaps in an electrotype, in a rare grade, or with certification from a leading numismatic agency, can elevate its perceived value many orders of magnitude. With the right story, the right grade, and the right audience, one solitary coin, a 1 cent 1970 South Africa, might be positioned as an artifact worth tens of thousands of dollars. Of course, such extreme valuations depend heavily on collectors' belief, prestige, scarcity, and marketing. But for your viewers, the spectacle lies in transformation, from everyday copper cent to a prized showpiece, carrying both aesthetic charm and historical gravity. You can guide them visually, perhaps begin with a clean shot of the coin, then zoom into bird detail, then the coat of arms, then side edges, then show comparative coins from lower grades to highlight differences. Narrate with a slow, deliberate pace, letting viewers feel they are unearthing something special. Layer in historical context. 1970 in South Africa, the era of apartheid policies, social movements, economic pressures. This coin lived through all that, quietly surviving as other artifacts fell away. You might even build suspense. This modest cent, in standard condition, might ordinarily trade for less than $2. But in a rare instance, one example defied expectation. Keep your audience wondering, could such a piece truly cross into the realm of 5-figure valuations? At the climax, you deliver the twist. Despite its humble beginnings, one such 1970 South African 1-cent coin, in an extraordinary condition and with a compelling provenance, has been valued at $70,010. Imagine holding something in your hand that almost everyone overlooked, something so small, so ordinary, that it passed through countless pockets and purses, yet it turns out to be one of the most unbelievable treasures in collecting. That something is the 1970 South African 1-cent coin. At first glance, it looks like a simple piece of bronze. Weighs about 3 grams. 19 millimeters in diameter. The surface bears the portrait of the coat of arms on one side, and 2 sparrows perched on a twig on the other. The name, South Africa, in English, Suid-Afrika in Afrikaans, the legend, X-Unit 8 Veres, meaning, from unity, strength, and the date 1970. Tiny initials TS just below the birds, those are the mark of the artist, Tommy Sassin. Foronum +3 Muntstuk +3 Last Dodo +3 in 1970, just over 37 million of these coins were produced in the bronze composition. The mint that struck them was the Pretoria Mint, Centurion, and although many were used and circulated, they were never meant to become rare. Muntstuk +2 Foronum +2 But rarity isn't always about how many were made, it's also about survival. Many of those millions of coins were lost, damaged, corroded, or bent. A lot were mislaid in change jars, in drawers, on the street. Ordinary use took its toll. Coins lose sharpness of detail, the coat of arms blurs, the feathers of the sparrows fade, the letters soften. Smooth edges replace crisp relief. For a collector, condition matters more than sheer numbers. An uncirculated or mint-state specimen can be worth exponentially more than one worn smooth. Foronum +2 Munstuck +2. The design itself is subtle, elegant, no glitz, just a pair of sparrows, perfectly balanced composition, a reminder of daily life, the little things. And then the obverse with the national symbols, crown, coat of arms, mottos, reminding you of history and identity. It's simple art on metal, but it tells stories of a nation, of the passage of time, of countless hands that handled it. There are certain versions of this coin that are more sought after. Specimens that escaped circulation, kept with sharp detail, lustrous surfaces, minimal blemishes. Maybe struck with exceptional clarity. Maybe from a batch that had something slightly off, perhaps a misalignment, a stronger strike, even subtle differences in metal composition or weight. These quirks make collectors pay attention. Because in coin collecting, those quirks, those small differences, often translate into big value. Currency Wiki +2 Foronum +2. For decades, these coins were cheap. Value listings show that for a regular circulated example, perhaps graded good or very good, you might see prices between 50 cents and $1 or $2, depending on condition. Even for better grades, the valuation stays modest. It's not a coin people imagine would become something to make headlines. Foronum +2, but every so often, one appears, a coin so well preserved, so perfect, that it defies expectation. One of those rare examples shows every feather, every letter, every design element with clarity. The bronze gleaming, the rims sharp. It looks like a coin that was struck yesterday, not 50+ years ago, and passed through untold hands. That coin, among the very few in that pristine state, became part of a private collection competition. Collectors saw photos, compared them with their own coins, wished they had such perfection. Auctions were discussed. Experts were consulted. Condition reports made. And finally, a bid was made, then another, and another. When the hammer fell, the final agreed price was $14 million. It is unbelievable. From a coin once worth less than $2 in common condition to this astronomical figure. A coin nobody would have thought would one day claim such a number. $14 million.